KURINJI Senior Secondary School, CBSE, Namakkal.
Successful result producing school in state every year.
Administered by the Board of Directors with over 35 years of experience in the teaching field.
Special attention on art, craft, music, dance, silambam, yoga, skating and karate.
Focus on Hindi Sabha and Spell Bee Olympiad exams.
Smart class for effective and innovative learning and well-furnished library.
Solitary importance on sports and games in state and national level.
WhatsApp facilities to know activities of students and school inside the campus.
NEET, JEE, IIT coaching experts from Rajasthan and Andhra Pradesh along with our effective teachers.
Admission registration for classes LKG to +2.
KURINJI Educational Institution, Kavetipatti, Namakkal. Admission in progress. CBSE, KG to 12, contact 9025895176. Metric 6 to 12, contact 9344567484. For online admission, log on to www.kurinjischoolnkl.in.
In continuation to the last class, in this class we are going to focus on two problems. So 16th and 17th problems. So this is the last class regarding the Atoms chapter numericals. So including example, exercise and additional exercise. This is the last problem. Okay. So it is here in this class our concentration is on towards 16th and 17th exercise problems. Okay. Right. Actually these two are additional exercise according to our textbook. Okay. Right. See here. First we will discuss 16th problem. Then we will go for next. See here. If Bohr's quantization postulates, that's very well, mvr is equal to n into h by 2 pi. So mvr is the angular momentum. Mvr is the angular momentum. Okay. So it is the third postulate. It's an important postulate also because it is talking about angular momentum of electron. Okay. So n into h by 2 pi. So h is the Planck's constant here, right? And n is the number of the orbit where it is revolving. Okay. And next pi is the constant. So anyhow, angular momentum L, that is equal to mvr is equal to n into h by 2 pi. N into h by 2 pi. Okay. Right. And if you continue the problem, see here, if Bohr's quantization postulate is basic law of nature. Basic law of nature. Okay. And it should be equally valid. It should be equally valid for the case of planetary motion also, right? So the sun is the center of the, according to our theory, and if sun is the center like a nucleus, and around the sun the planets are revolving. For example, if you take Earth, which is revolving around the nucleus, right, around the sun. So just he is comparing the structure of atom to the structure of solar system what we had nearly, because universe is unimaginable space. Universe is unimaginable. Just see the word. So even for imagination also it is not possible. Okay. So that is the reason generally always we used to talk about the thing which is very close to us. For example, when we are going to talk about the galaxies. So basically whenever I am going to take the solar system or as an example, you have to concern with Milky Way galaxy. Okay. So in that Milky Way galaxy our solar system is present. In this solar system, the sun is very close to us when compared to the remaining stars. That's why we consider sun as the biggest one. But if we are going to consider the whole universe, we are not sure about sun is the biggest, because near to us the star which is the biggest is sun. Okay. And not only this problem, in previous problems also we come across the same situation. So he used to compare the structure of atom to the structure of the solar system. That is what nucleus is like sun, and the orbits like the orbits where the planets are revolving, and basically we are living on planet Earth now. So he is taking Earth is like electron and which is revolving around the sun. Okay. Right. And in this question, his interest is if Bohr's quantization postulate is basic law of nature, it should be equally valid for the case of planetary motion also. So he only concluded. He is only giving the conclusion or statement. Why then do we move, okay, why then do we never speak of quantization of orbits of planets around the sun, okay? And in the chapter of gravitation, right, in the chapter of gravitation when we are in the first year, right, so there are Kepler laws and Kepler first law, Kepler second law, Kepler's third law, right? Kepler first law spoke about the shape of the orbit, that is what elliptical shape, and Kepler second law is talking about aerial velocity of the planet, that is what dA by dt is equal to constant, aerial velocity of the planet is constant, and Kepler's third law is speaking about that is what the relation between time period and radius, that is what t square is directly proportional to the r cubed, t square is directly proportional to r cube, right? And thereafter we discussed many things, those are all variation of G, gravitational potential energy, right, and many things we discussed from the chapter of gravitation. And why I am saying all those things means you just cross check. He is saying that we never speak of quantization of orbits of planets around the sun. When we listen this thing, we have to cross check now. So that's why we have to go back to the gravitation and we have to recall what are the things we discussed from the chapter of gravitation, okay, right? So according to this question, you just think of it. Why do we never speak of quantization of orbits of planets around the sun, okay, right? So he is asking the reason, and before going to answer itself, you have to get a small thing into your mind, that is what when we talk about atom and electrons and nucleus, these are the like microscoping things. When we talk about sun, earth, Mercury and some other planets, 8 planets are present in this universe, right? So if you talk about these planets, these are the macro things, right? So electron, structure of atom, electron, proton, neutron, these are all micro things, and this is what solar system, sun, earth, Mercury and Jupiter, these planets, this is what macro things, okay, that is the basic difference. And mass is a huge difference, right? Million times. What is the size of the nucleus, right? That is what 1 Fermi, that is 10 to the power of minus 15 meters, like that, okay? But if you talk about the radius of the sun, what is that, okay? So that's why there is what millions times bigger, that solar system and that and all what we consider million times bigger when compared to the microscoping things, that is what nucleus, atom, electron, that and all, okay, right? See here, angular momenta, okay, angular momenta associated with planetary motion are incomparably large relative to h by 2 pi. Angular momenta associated with planetary motion, are incomparably large relative to h by 2 pi, right? So what is h here? Planck's constant, and that's value also 6.6 right, into 10 to the power of minus 34 joule second, and okay, pi is 3.14 or 22 by 7. Next, for example, angular momentum of the earth in its orbital motion is of the order of 10 to the power of 70 h by 2 pi, right? What is angular momentum? Is a product of mass and linear velocity and radius. 3 things will come, right? You just compare the distance between the nucleus and the electron in one respective orbit it is revolving. In case of structure of atom, that is what micro things. At the same time, you compare the distance between the earth and sun, okay, distance between the sun to earth in planetary system, right? So there itself we can conclude that. At the same time, mass also, that is what okay, so that is what mass of earth and V also. So 3 things are there to calculate mathematically angular momentum, right? So then you can believe this what I am saying here, that is what earth for example, angular momentum of the earth in its orbital motion is of the order of 10 to the power of 70 h by 2 pi, okay, right? In terms of the Bohr's quantization postulate, this corresponds to a very large value of n. That is order of 10 to the power of 70. So you compare, that is what MVR is equal to N into H by 2 pi. MVR is equal to N into H by 2 pi. So here we are saying that MVR is equal to N into H by 2, MVR is equal to H by 2 pi means N is equal to 1 now. At the same time, regarding the planetary motion, that is what the orbital motion of the earth around the sun, MVR is equal to 10 to the power of 70 into H by 2 pi. You just compare these two. Then what is the value of N? Which is 10 to the power of 70. Right? So in terms of Bohr's quantization postulate, this corresponds to a very large value of N. This corresponds to a very large value of N, that is of the order of 10 to the power of 70. Right? For such large values of N, the differences in the successive energies, for such a large values of N, right, differences between the differences in the successive energies and angular momenta of the quantized levels of the Bohr model, right, are so small compared to the energies and angular momenta respectively of the levels that one can for all practical purposes consider the levels continuous. Okay. So what he is saying is finally, for such large values of N, the differences in the successive energies and angular momenta of the quantized levels of the Bohr model are so small compared to the energies and angular momenta respectively of the levels that one can for all practical purpose, right, consider the levels continuous. So what he is saying, so whatever we felt, whatever I told you before going to explain this answer, that is what in case of atom, electron, nucleus, we have to see, and generally no need to see, that is what microscopic things. And if you come to the point of sun, earth, planetary system, solar system, right, so here these are the macroscopic things, right. So these are the bigger things, and the electron, proton, atom means that is what microscopic things. Okay. So the same thing we are getting conclusion here. So if you see the last this 4 lines of information, we are getting the same thing, that is what for such a larger values of N, that is what 10 to the power of 70 means is not ordinary number, 10 to the power of 70, right. For such large values of N, the differences in the successive energies and angular momenta of the quantized levels of the Bohr model are so small compared to the energies and angular momenta respectively of the levels that one can for all practical purposes consider the levels continuous, right. And here he is talking about energies and angular momenta, right. So you know very well, when electron jump from one level to another level, right, suppose it is going to jump from high level to the low level, it releases energy in the form of photon. Suppose the electron wants to go from low level to the high level, it requires certain amount of energy. That energy is equal to the energy difference of those two respective levels. Right. So that also differs. So according to this last 4 or 5 lines of information, we can understand that is what the energy and angular momenta when compared to the microscopic things, that is what atom, nucleus and electrons, and to the macro things, that is what the sun, earth and planetary system. Okay, right, it is also that is what the solar system. Okay. So in this problem he is asking to focus on why then we do never speak of quantization of orbits of planets around the sun, because the number is big, that is what 10 to the power of 70. Okay, right. So before going to next problem, that once you think of this previous problem, that is problem number 16. Okay. So what he is asking and what is our conclusion, right. So we are getting the larger value of N. We are getting for the larger value of n, right? So that's why one thing that just now I told you one definition for the universe. So universe is unimaginable space. Similarly, when we are going to have a bigger value, that is like 10 to the power of 70, generally we never speak, right? We never speak casually or repeatedly or generally also. Okay. That is the only reason he has given. Right. Next problem. See here. Next continuation problem, that is 17th one. Obtain the first Bohr's radius. Obtain the first Bohr's radius and the ground state energy. Obtain the first Bohr's radius and the ground state energy of a, okay, see here, obtain the first Bohr's radius and the ground state energy of a muonic, right, muonic hydrogen atom. So what is this muonic hydrogen atom? An atom in which a negatively charged muon of mass about 207 ME. So ME means mass of electron mass. So according to his, so muon has mass about 207 times greater than the mass of the electron, orbits around a proton. Orbits around a proton, right? So according to the question, we have to calculate Bohr's radius and ground state energy. Ground state energy. So two things we have to calculate now. So one thing is radius, another one is energy, right? And that he is asking. And one of the new thing, muonic hydrogen atom. Keep in mind, here there may be a chance for the arising of one more question also, right? As simple as such, what do we understand by the term? What do we understand by muonic hydrogen atom, right? So in the bracket we have answer. An atom in which a negatively charged muon, right? It is what? A primary particle. You know how we have electron, proton, neutron, right? Similarly, it is one of the primary particles. So totally in our physics, we have 120 primary particles, right? Mesons, leptons, right? Baryons and kryptons, right? So like that there is a big list. So muon is one of the primary particle, right? Same like electron. So what is the information we have in electron? Similarly, muon also. But here he is calling that muonic hydrogen atom, means that atom. So whatever the we are going to consider, in that atom in which a negatively charged muon of mass about 207 ME. So 207 times greater than the mass of the electron. 207 ME orbits around a proton. Okay, right. And see here, how we are going to solve this problem, how we are going to find the radius and energy. See here. In Bohr's model, the radius of the nth orbit, right? So this formula you know very well. That is what R is equal to n square into h square divided by 4 pi square mkz e square. So here these all the things. H is the Planck's constant and E is the charge of electron. So this terminology, when we were in a discussion about that is what theory, we derived this formula also, right? So that only we are writing here as it is. The radius of the nth orbit is R is equal to n square into h square divided by 4 pi square mkz e square. 4 pi square mkz e square. So you just think of the relation between this is what m and r. So it is r is directly proportional to 1 by m now. R is directly proportional to 1 by m. That is what mass, radius. So radius of the orbit is inversely proportional to mass. Radius of the orbit is inversely proportional to the mass. So according to the problem, mass of the muon, right? So you can say that directly proportional to 1 by m or inversely proportional to m. R is directly proportional to 1 by m or inversely proportional to m, right? Next, now in a muonic hydrogen atom, a negatively charged muon, in a muonic hydrogen atom, a negatively charged muon of mass 207 MeV revolves around a proton, right? So he didn't give the value, he has simply given the comparison between mass of electron and mass of muon. That's why we are taking as it is, and moreover there is a chance for cancellation. That's why we don't want a definite value, because he is asking, that is what radius of the orbit, right? Radius of the orbit where the muon is present. Muon is present. Okay. See here. So when we are going to take this expression, you can write it as R mu by Re is equal to Me by Mu. That is equal to Me by, mass of muon is 207 times the mass of charge, that is mass of electron. So 207 Me, right? So these two will get cancelled. Finally, R mu is equal to, right? Here is nothing from physics point of view, just it is a pure mathematical thing, right? So getting this relation only physics concept, right? So from this expression we are writing R is inversely proportional to mass, right? And there itself we start to continue. We start to say, now in a muonic hydrogen atom, a negatively charged muon of mass 207 Me revolves around a proton. Okay. Therefore, you can write R mu by Re is equal to Me by Mu because of inversely proportional. That is equal to Mu already given in the question, that is 207 Me. So we will get cancelled. Finally, R mu is equal to 1 by 207 into Re. That is equal to 1 by 207 into 0.53 into 10 to the power of minus 10. It is what the radius of, this is the radius of the orbit in which electron is revolving. In which electron is revolving 0.53 into 10 to the power of minus 10 meters. Okay. So is equal to 2.5 into 10 to the power of minus 13 meters. So do this calculation mathematically, and this division, right, and this multiplication. Finally will give us 2.5 into 10 to the power of minus 13 meters. That is what the radius of the orbit in which muon is present. Next we are going to calculate energy, right? Energy of electron in the nth orbit. This is the expression E is equal to minus 2 pi square. E is equal to minus 2 pi square, right? Minus 2 pi square m k square z square e power 4 divided by n square h square. N square h square, right? So it is, n is the number of the orbit, h is the Planck's constant, right? So E is the charge of electron, etc. Energy of electron in the nth orbit, E is equal to minus 2 pi square m k square z square e power 4 divided by n square h square. So from these things, from this expression, what can I write? Because in the problem the source is only mass. The source is only mass of the muon. That's why to calculate energy we are taking mass. That is the logic behind that. You may have a doubt. See, why in case of calculating radius of the orbit in which muon is revolving, we took only mass of the muon, and even when we are going to calculate the energy, also we took only the relation between energy and mass. The reason is the given information from the question, right? So in the question he used to talk about the mass of the muon when compared to the mass of the electron, right? That's why we are taking that value only. There is no other choice. Okay. See here. So when all the factors are fixed, E is directly proportional to mu. When E is directly proportional to mu, you can write it as E mu by E. E mu by E is equal to M mu by ME, right? And you write this value 207 ME and divided by ME. So these two will get cancelled. Then finally E mu is equal to 207 E. So that is equal to minus 207 into 13.6. 13.6. So when it is 13.6, right? When it is 13.6, so it is finally, if you do this calculation, you will get it as minus 2.8 kilo electron volt, minus 2.8 keV, right? Okay, this is all about second problem. Okay, so in this class we focused on two problems, right? In first problem, we compare the micro things, that is what electron, nucleus and atom, to the macro things, that is what sun, earth and planetary system, that is what solar system. Okay, and we answered why we never speak of quantization of orbits of planets around the sun. So usually the number n value is big, that is what 10 to the power of 70. That is the reason the energies and angular momenta differs, right, from atomic structure to the solar structure, that is what solar system. In 17th problem, next problem, he is asking to find radius, right, radius and that is energy of the orbit in which the mu n is present. Okay, so we calculated the radius will be like 2.5 into 10 to the power of minus 13 meter based on the given value, and energy will be minus 2.8 kilo electron volt. Okay, so with this class we completed from Atoms chapter example problems, exercise problems and additional exercise, right? So all the problems we completed. Okay ma, right? So in our next class we start with the nucleus chapter. Next class we will start nucleus chapter. Okay, right. Thank you.